Hello, it's Keith here, and this is lesson 11 and the final lesson of the basic series of my programming tutorials. This is the last one, and basically we're just going to cover a few extra pieces of terminology and concepts. Ironically, all of them basically relating to joysticks, which is quite strange and wasn't intentional, but that's the way these things have happened. So let's go straight over to our theatre screen and let's see what these joysticks are all about. So basically, when you come to these old retro systems, joysticks fell into two kinds of category. The first of these were the digital joysticks, and if you're familiar with your Xbox or PlayStation joypads of today, this is the up, down, left, right thumb pad that you will often have. So these, in the old systems, these basically fell into two kinds of category. The very cheap, nasty ones, which had just a metal plus inside them, and these would make a contact with the directions as you pressed it, and they would all break after 6 months. Or the far better switched base ones, like your sort of arcade style sticks like the Neo Geo, that were far more durable and worked far better. So basically, though, they're either on or off. That's the point of them. However, mechanically the switches work, they can only be on or off. They're a 1 or a 0 value. Now, how those values actually return to the software or the hardware might be quite surprising to you, because often a 1 is that they are not connected and they go to 0 when they are pressed, which could be the opposite of what you expect. But it really depends on the hardware. The more important thing to understand at this point is the difference between that digital joystick, which is the most common, and the analog joysticks favoured by some systems. Systems like the Vectrex and the Tandy Coco, the Dragon, and I think the BBC, if I remember correctly. These use analog joysticks, and these are basically using a variable resistor of some kind, and so rather than being up or down, they will give a value in a range, and by the time it gets to our computer, this will be usually in some kind of 0 to 255 or 0 to 16,000 or whatever range. And so rather than being up or down, they will be either centered or somewhat above or somewhat below centered, or somewhat left or somewhat right. And so they will give this kind of analog value that can be an entire range, and that's great if you're creating a flight sim where you need smooth movement. Not so great if you're just trying to create a simple Tetris game, for example. And so what you will end up having to do is, take this range and then create some kind of dead zone, which you will consider to be the center. And as soon as it goes outside of that dead zone, you will consider that direction to be left or right or up and down. So that's what you often have to deal with. Now, with both of these systems, though, the way you actually read in the data and process it is going to be entirely dependent on the hardware itself. It's always completely different. And while today I'm covering some concepts that it will help you to understand, you will need to look at the actual system you're trying to cover for the documentation of how to read the joystick and then how to process it into a digital value if it's an analog one, and that's not what you need. The good thing is I've covered all of the platforms in my tutorial. I've got joystick tutorials on all of them, and in my games I just treat all the joysticks as digital. So in the cases of analog ones, I've got conversion code to give you a digital value from that analog joystick. So if you're interested in a system that I cover, please search Chibi Akumas and the name of the system and joystick, and hopefully a tutorial will come up for you on YouTube. So check that out. So anyway, we're going to now carry on, and we're going to discuss some other things that you will often have to come across with joysticks, but also other hardware. You might come across this as well, but it's all very common with joysticks. Now, one thing that you will often come across is the concept of a strobe. Now, in the case of things like the Super Nintendo, but also some of these other systems where there is a range of values you're having to read in, basically you will only have one port, and sometimes even just one bit, that returns all of the values for your joystick. So you might need to read this and in some way process the data. Sometimes for an analog joystick you have to send a strobe signal that resets the joystick, and then you have to wait until you get a second signal, and that is the position of the joystick on that axis. On a system like the Super Nintendo, you have to send a strobe signal to reset the port, and then you have to read in the directions. And on some systems like the PC Engine, the TurboGrafx, you have to send a strobe to reset the multi-tap that has multiple joypads, and then you can read in each of the joysticks in order. So basically the strobe signal is resetting the hardware and preparing it to send whatever data it has for you. Now again, entirely depends on the hardware, and while the examples I'm giving there are related to joysticks, the concept of this strobe isn't just related to joysticks at all. It's just about sending a signal to a piece of hardware that tells that hardware that it needs to start sending data or needs to prepare itself for some other task. So it's just a sort of a reset signal in most cases. Now, and the next thing we're going to discuss is DAC and ADC. Now, this is digital to analog conversion or analog to digital conversion, and this is basically relating in some ways to our joysticks, but of course also to sound. So you might have to use these kind of devices, and sometimes you need to sort of turn them on or engage them if you are trying to read in an analog joystick or indeed making some kind of sound. Again, it all depends on the hardware, and again, if you search for Chibi Akumas on YouTube or search on my website for the system you're interested in, I've got tutorials on the joysticks and the sound for all of the systems I cover. Just basic examples, but enough to get you started. So again, as I say, these are tricky concepts, but hopefully I've got something for you. But if not, all of these are things you are likely to see in the documentation you're reading, and if you're not familiar with these kind of concepts, it can really sort of get you quite confused, which is why I'm covering them all here, because they got me quite confused when I was trying to figure out how on earth to get data from all of these devices that worked in all of these strange and wonderful ways. Now, the final concept we're going to discuss is the concept of a multiplexer, and this is something that comes up in a few systems, but the one that I always remember it from is the Dragon. Now, the Dragon combines a lot of different devices on the digital to analog conversion. The sound card, the sound chip, and also the joystick, the analog joystick, are connected to the same digital to analog converter and are read in from the same port via the processor. And the device that handles the switching is a multiplexer, and this combines all of these devices and then passes the data through. And the tricky thing is, if we want to read in the joystick, we have to turn off the speaker, and if we want to read in the keyboard, we have to turn on the joystick and things. So it gets a little bit tricky, but as I say, basically this is just a device that allows a large number of devices to connect to a small number of hardware ports from the CPU side. So again, it's something you may come across in documentation when it comes to programming this kind of hardware. So anyway, those were the last few concepts that we're going to cover as part of this series. So hopefully now you've heard all of the broad concepts that you might come across when you're going to look at programming. Now, as I say, a lot of the concepts I've covered today may be interested to someone who's not particularly interested in assembly programming, if you're just interested in retro hardware or just hardware in general. But what it was really intended for you is as a sort of a bit of background information for you going further with some kind of assembly programming. So if you want to continue and you want to learn a particular assembly programming, whether it's Z80, 6502, 68000 or all of the other ones, basically what I'd suggest you do now is, if you want to continue with my tutorials, then if you search for Chibi Akumas and the process you're interested in, I've covered a wide variety of processes in assembly language. I'm going to be covering more in the future as well, so even if I've not covered the one you're interested in yet, take a look. But alternatively, I'm sure there's plenty of other fine tutorials that are possibly far better than mine you could also look at. And the other thing is, if you take a look on archive.org, there's a lot of old books related to a lot of these retro processors. You can get some books from the day and learn from those. So as I say, take a look around and find a form of tutorials that will help you with the platform you're interested in. But on my website and my YouTube channel, I've tried to cover all of the basic concepts with regards to games. I think making little games is a lot of fun and can help you learn things. Anyway, whatever you do going from here, I wish you the best of luck with your programming. Thanks for watching and goodbye.